It's summer, I think. School, last day, school. It's warm. We miss spring. Good morning, Commissioner.
Good morning.
I'll call the meeting to order for members of this Green Line CNC and members and alternates. Just a couple of little housekeeping things. One is the mics are live and you can't turn them off. That's what I was just told. So there you are. We're going to record all sci-fi conversations. Put them on the website. No, we won't.
You're gonna have a good time.
Also, now, if there are members of the public who are watching, and if you have comments or questions, feel free to email david.davies@metrotransit.org, or just walk over and talk to David, who's sitting right over here. But feel free to email those comments if you're watching remotely, and we will certainly publish those, and post those and answers. There is a website, greenlineext.org, and I ask everybody to check it out every so often. There's a few new faces, and not necessarily brand new, but I think it's worth going around the room and introducing ourselves. I introduced myself, Charlie Zelli. Chris, right here.
Yeah, Chris Latondras, Hennepin County Commissioner representing District 6.
Marion Green, Hennepin County Commissioner representing District 6. I'm here with my Hennepin County Regional Rail Authority hat on.
Yeah.
You're District 3.
Oh, District 3, oh my gosh, District 3.
Hello, Hennepin County Commissioner Debbie Gotel, District 5.
Hello, Nick Thompson, Metro Transit.
Brad Wierson, Mayor, Minnetonka.
Hello, Dr. Tyrone Carter, District 3, Metro Council member.
Chief Morales, Metro Transit Police Department.
Jim Alexander, Met Council Project Director for the Green Line Extension.
John Tao, Metropolitan Council, Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity.
Will Roach with the Business Advisory Committee.
John Pacheco, District 6, Metro Council.
Dan Duffy, Co-Chair of the Business Advisory Committee.
Suzanne Sabatka, City of Minneapolis, representing Mayor Fry's office.
Angela Cameron, District 5 of the Met Council.
Dawn Hoffner with the Project Office and the Recording Secretary for the committee.
Well, thanks and welcome everyone. And I know Councilmember Cameron, Councilmember Carter are not, as I said, brand new, but they are part of the second term appointees. And as we've changed district around, maybe get more engaged. Just in time, introduce yourself.
Tim Brownson, St. Louis Park City Council.
Thank you, and thank you for the use of this wonderful space.
My pleasure. Turns out I don't even own it.
Well, it's the best kind of gift, you know. And thank Mayor Spano. I'll just give a couple of. Oh, wait. First, let's approve the minutes. The minutes were sent out from our April 5th meeting of the Southwest Light Rail CNC, and if there were any edits, comments, questions, you can certainly direct those to the staff now or later.
I'll move on.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, those minutes are approved. I'll just take a couple of minutes for just some my own personal updates. First off, I really want to thank Mayor Case and those that came to Eden Prairie a couple of weeks ago, May 31st. Some of you were there, where we had the opening of part of the Green Line extension. I mean, you know, we were always talking about, you know, digging into the ground. We actually had a ribbon cutting, and to prove it, I actually have the ribbon, which I'm going to hand to somebody. I took it out of the wastebasket. Okay, true confession. And because Jim expressed an interest, so I'm going to give that to the project office. Pretty great day and pretty exciting. It was more than a waiting room. This is a whole bus turnaround area. It looks great. I kind of mentioned I've seen a lot of crummy depot waiting rooms in my life, and this is probably the nicest one I've ever seen. And also, really in the years, even before the Green Line opens, there's going to be a great center for intermodal, multimodal kind of connections from some of the micro transit to Ubers to intercity buses. Others are using that now and will be more so in the next few years, and ultimately the rate at the terminus of the Green Line extension. Speaking of celebrations, we had a pretty amazing legislative session and got some great achievements that many of us have been dreaming about for decades. And I won't go into all the details. I know from a transit point of view, there was the three-quarter sales tax, portion of which is coming to Metro Transit, portion of which is coming to counties, other uses for active transportation. Although there's additional revenue, the council is taking on additional operating costs, like eventually Southwest, also the current light rail and transitway projects. So it really does free up a lot of, I think, opportunities for our whole transit system going forward. We got $72 million of bonding for ABRT, the bus, kind of going forward, which is also a great measure of support. There's some very prescriptive issues about operations, safety, some intervention project you might be reading about, and a lot that is going to resource what Chief Morales has been describing. So that's we're kind of excited about leaning into some of the work we need to do. There's actually requires us to do some of the things that we are doing and will continue to do. One of which is creating more codes of conduct and decriminalizing fare evasion, so we actually can force fare compliance. And I think this is kind of this summer, particularly, kind of really taking those steps to get ahead of the safety and customer experience of transit, but also start kind of building out the systems that are really important a few years from now when we do things like open up more light rail segments. So, and no, there's plenty of time to talk more about that, but I just want to acknowledge that and thank everybody in the room who've been part of this process. And also now we're clearly in the implementation stage. Speaking of which, I know many of you have met Chief Morales because you've been around a lot of places. I've said half of my job is to follow the chief, which is a great treat because you have a lot to say. We've already made a difference, and one of the greatest things was actually being at a Met Council meeting where we swore in new officers. We kind of stopped the loss and started increasing the number of sworn officers as well as our community service officers that we're recruiting, but most importantly how we collaborate with others and not just enforcement but social service and certainly local governments, many right here. So with that, I know we've promised a little update from the chief. I think everybody here really cares about that. So, Chief, I hand it off to you.
Good morning, and thank you. Thank you for welcoming me and giving me the opportunity to address this forum. I want to address the particular concerns on the light rail system and the BRT system as well, and the challenges that we face. And I want to reassure you of and share with you my vision on how we're going to address everything that we're experiencing and come up with long-term pragmatic solutions. For the most part, I just have to update you on the staff resources, something that's across law enforcement in America today, particularly in the state of Minnesota. We're all experiencing this. However, I want to reassure you that we're focusing on recruitment and moving forward. We currently have 23 individuals in backgrounds right now, and we hope to have double-digit individuals in our next academy class come August. I've recently shortened our requirement in the academy from 8 weeks down to 5 weeks, and the reason why we want to do this is we want to get our officers into the field faster, but more importantly, those extra 3 weeks of training, what we will do is implement that during field training. So those 3 weeks that I'm cutting down, they will still be required to fulfill those requirements, and they will get that training, but we will do it during their field training opportunities when they're in the field. What we have been doing now is we've been conducting outreaches with our HAT team, our Homeless Action Team, and we've been conducting these at the Mall of America, Brooklyn Center Transit Center, Lake Street, and Hiawatha. So we're moving that team around. More importantly, as of June 1, our Transit Service Intervention Program this now legislation went into effect. So we're teaming up with our community partners, particularly who are offering social services, intervention services, and we are moving with them so that we get them out on our lines and we meet the people where they are. We understand that we're dealing with homelessness, we're dealing with chemically dependent individuals, and we don't want to criminalize this behavior, but we do, as the chair stated, we do want to enforce the code of conduct. So what we're doing right now, just in an effort to protect our critical infrastructure, such as the airport, I believe that's our #1 focus, particularly on the Blue Line, because the airport is the gateway to Minnesota. I don't want tourists to believe that this is what Minnesota represents. Minnesota is such a beautiful state, and it needs to be represented and shown in that manner. So with that said, we have entered into mutual aid agreements with airport police and the Bloomington Police Department. We have been effectively patrolling from from Mall of America in Bloomington to the airport. And that extra presence has shown a significant decline in crime, but calls for service as well, due to the omnipresence. And omnipresence is important, particularly today. We want to encourage riders to get back onto our system. We are safer in numbers, but before we can achieve this accomplishment, we have to show that we are out there in numbers and that people feel safe because they see a friendly face in uniform. So we're continuously working on this. But more importantly, on top of that, as of June 1st, a lot of things went on. We started our partnership with Allied Security, and we have supplemental security. And where we have deployed them is on the Lake Street in Hiawatha, which is our #1 problematic station, followed on by Franklin. We have 4 other areas where we will slowly develop and implement security as we move forward. This will help us free up our law enforcement officials so that we can continuously move around the system, but more importantly, stay on the lines, BRT and the LRT, where I'll have my officers and supervisors going out into the system to educate our public that there is a requirement to participate and pay your fare. We hope that this omnipresence will continue to help encourage people to return back to the system. But make no mistake about it, we are aware that our challenges will once again resurface come October when the colder months come back into play. So the purpose of this meeting and this collaboration is to make sure we come up with pragmatic solutions to deal with the winter months when they return, and how are we going to deal with people. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions, comments from committee member? Mary?
Thank you, Chair. I wondered, thank you for that overview and welcome, sort of. How have you been successful having a recruiting class, or maybe in background checks, of 23? That seems like a really great number, and I know that different jurisdictions in law enforcement have had a really hard time recruiting. What do you think the secret was?
Well, the secret is we have an effective recruitment team, and what we're doing is we're going out and we're meeting people at where they are. In the past, we were expecting people to come to us. I know we spend a lot of money on campaigning, and campaigning is an important tool. However, we need to meet people where they are. We need to go into their communities. We need to establish those relationships and encourage that recruitment. So in our recruitment process, we have our recruiters who take our candidates from step 1 to step 5. And as I stated, we have 23 in background. Doesn't mean that all 23 are going to pass backgrounds, but we're very optimistic that we will have double digits come August. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Craig.
Thanks, Chair Exelli, Chief Morales. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really heartened to hear you talk about your efforts on recruitment, on omnipresence, on fair enforcement, on the code of conduct, and really standardizing that ahead of the expansion of our system. I think it's going to be really important for real safety and perceived safety and just the reputation of transit. I was also really heartened, especially from a Hennepin County perspective. We provide significant human services, not on the criminal justice side of the spectrum, but just for residents that need help and assistance. You mentioned the behavioral health dynamics surrounding some of the incidents that we've seen on light rail and just some of the challenges. So I guess my question is, can you talk a little bit more about that vision around what you're hoping for in terms of system collaboration between transit and human service providers, other local jurisdictions that are involved in the work?
Yes, thank you for the question. I'll be quite honest here. In my experience in the last 3 months, when we talk about Metro Transit, it seems like there's a lot of finger pointing, and everyone says that it's our issue. It's not a Metro Transit issue, it's a societal issue, and it belongs to everyone in this room. Just as the Metro Transit belongs to everyone in this room. It's an expanding endeavor, and whether you approve of it or not, it offers opportunities for everyone. But keep in mind that transportation is exactly what it states. It's transportation. It moves people. So our overall objective is to provide an opportunity to get people to a destination. With that said, we understand the issues that we're facing, and we must collaborate with our resources and get them aligned so that we offer an opportunity to the people in crisis and people who need services, that we offer them the services. They are out there, but we need to come up with a pragmatic solution on how to get them to the services they are needed. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I think that begins to lay down a framework for I think what's going to be required in terms of, I mean, you talked about the mutual aid around public safety between Bloomington Airport Police and Met Transit Police. I think similar collaboration partnerships, deepening partnerships are going to be required, as you say, to meet people where they're at, and we don't want to criminalize folks that are in a desperate situation, but really get them the help that they need, and anything that we can be doing to explore those partnerships and deepen that collaboration. I know Hennepin County is ready for that.
Really appreciate that. Go ahead, Mayor.
I just want to add to that. I think collaboration really is the key point. And I think that as we consider the county and we consider the cities along the line, we're excited about the opportunity, but we also recognize that the challenges that the line faces are not ones that we can just throw over the fence and say they're your problems. We all have a stake in resolving these problems. And homelessness is a significant issue. But without a solution, people start making bad choices. That's why we see people on the trains. So I would just want to say, from my city's perspective, and I think other mayors would agree, that we want to partner with you and work with you and do our part and fulfill our role as city leaders to enable you to look at really as much more of a systemic problem than a particular problem, even though we see the symptoms of that problem in specific locations on the line in our cities and things like that. So we're ready. We stand ready to partner with you.
Thank you. I would say, and I just want to cover down on this as well, within the jurisdictions and the other cities. For every jurisdiction that has its own independent police force, it's a collaboration where we need police presence on the system. We need, remember, I'm like every police department in the state. We're under-resourced at the moment. And if we don't collaborate effectively and we don't look out for one another and each other's jurisdictions, we're going to fail miserably. So although we're quick to say that this is our jurisdictional area of responsibility, we have to collaborate and we have to show up. So while we have nice facilities, these facilities Metro Transit has designed are amazing and they're beautiful, and we want to keep them beautiful. But in order to keep them beautiful and preserve this, we need to show up and we need to work smartly and with one another to preserve the investment that we've put into the system.
Well, thanks for these comments, and absolutely, it's an interconnected system. One thing we found in had a recent meeting worried about the activity near the airport. People's first impression taking the light rail. But it's not just about Bloomington and that platform. We know that Hiawatha and Lake Street really affects the people on the train who are going to the airport. I mean, and when we're working on the platform at Hiawatha, we have to work closely with Minneapolis, and not just the city, but the private security, which in the apartments right next door, and because everything kind of spills out. So this is how we collaborate from enforcement, and also, as you say, providing services, connections to services. I think our homeless action team, as part of the Metro Transit Police, I think we have referred to our own housing authority. Is it 300 different homes?
We're over 400 now, sir.
400. So we've actually placed 400 with our voucher system, where people we know who have been kind of in the transit properties to give them a home. So, I mean, some of these things are working, but the challenge is vast. So we know what to do. We just need to keep doing it. With that, any other questions, thoughts? All right, so we are actually here to discuss a light rail project, and it's marching along. I inspected on a separate time today as I walk by. So, Jim, what's the latest?
All right, well, thank you, Chair. Jim Alexander, Project Director. We're still out there busy working, and if you haven't been out there, you should get out and take a look. We're still offering, if there's interest in doing tours, for anyone to go see the sites. We had a great event out out at Southwest Transit, as the chair mentioned. It was really good for us as a project because we're really feel like we're slogging along on this project, and we got issues every day, and it's nice to see some completion of work. So we've got a couple photos to show, but I want to pause and talk about where we're at with the schedule and cost. We continue to have discussions with both contractors, the civil contractor, London McCrossin joint venture, and the assistant contractor, Albany Parsons. And we continue to maintain our estimated budget of $2.7 billion and the 2027. But just want to, as I've been talking in the past, we had some delays with the secant installation. Luckily, we're done with the secants. We're actually progressing on that construction now, and toward the Cedar Isles condominiums. But we're still assessing the impacts from those delays we experienced in 2022 and earlier this year. So we're going to go through some processes with FTA later this year to talk about risk and talk about a recovery plan, and that's going to be kind of setting the stage for the rest of the project here. So just want to talk about the construction workers. We can continue to ratchet up. Over 4,100 individuals working on the project thus far. You can see the spread on in the state. We're still looking at over 75% of counties from the state of Minnesota. Someone taking a paycheck home to each of those counties. So that's still progressing. John will talk about the DBE, but we're still quite proud of the DBE efforts that's been going on this project. Over 20%. That compares to the goal of 15% for the construction contracts. So we're all about trails. I know the mayors get a lot of questions about trails, and I've been focusing on that, as you all know. I'll put out again that I'm an avid bicycler. I take the bike into work every day, and so I keep my eye on things. But we've got some challenges out there with heavy construction and trying to maneuver with the bikes and the peds. It's a challenge to keep things open. These are the dates that we have set contractually with the contractor, with the simple contractor, and for all the different areas. And I'll tell you, as I said again before, that we're working with the contractor to try to better these dates, particularly on the Cedar Lake, the South Cedar Lake Trail. We're looking to hopefully open up some of those segments yet later this year. But it's a challenge because the contractor is trying to get their work done. We're trying to figure out how to safely do this. And so we're going to continue to have those conversations. Know that I have conversations even at the upper level with Tom McCrossin and Dennis Benke on this on these issues. It's important for the communities, I should say, to get these trails up and running. And do appreciate the patience that people have exhibited on getting these trails back into shape here. A couple of things I did want to point out that we do have a segment up at the ballpark, at the Twin Stadium, that we're going to have to close down that trail for work. We have to do some work around the ball field's parking area. We also have some retaining wall work to do related to the BNSF work that is going on there. So that's going to be another disruption for the trail users, and we hope to get that started later this month and be progressing through the season here. We'll have a detour identified. We continue to keep our construction update weekly out to folks so get the best information we have at the time to relay the information of what we have out there. So as I indicated, as the chair talked about, we had ribbon cutting, and we have evidence of that apparently on the table. So good event, pretty big showing. I think I've shown some of these photos in the past, maybe not this one in particular, image of what things look like. This is the bus pull-in area. So just remind folks, this is going to be a multimodal station where we have Southwest Transit operating out of this area. The station for LRT is underneath that kind of the canopy here. As you can see, there's a 450 stall ramp above that. That's pretty much done, but we have more work to do on the south side, which I'll show in a moment. Inside photo of what things look like. I think that turned out pretty nicely. And the reason why we did this is there was an existing interior waiting area for Southwest Transit, and part of the agreement that we made back several years ago with Southwest Transit, we had to reestablish that indoor waiting area. So we worked closely with Southwest Transit. We actually handed this off to them last month, and they had their official kickoff of this on May 31 with that ribbon cutting. And here's the LRT part of that. And more work. So we still have piles to do. We're hoping to get this wrapped up in the next probably July timeframe. We had about 400 more piles to do at this location. Recall that we have about 27 miles of piles at this location if you put them end on end. So a lot of soft ground. Some of the piles go down to about 110, 120 feet. We have had our challenges at this site. But this is essentially for the passenger drop-off, and also the access into that 450 stall ramp. And once this is all finished, the bus and LRT patrons can use that the full ramp we built, and it co-joins with the existing ramp that Southwest Transit operates. Moving along with Golden Triangle Station, just things finishing up here off to the right, kind of off the screen, is a small park and ride that we have for this station. And City West, still at Eden Prairie here, some plaza work that is getting finished up. Some cleaning up the dirt there, but things are starting to progress pretty well there with the station. At Opus Station, you can see some pet access pieces getting in place. Mayor, we are looking to open up this road here fairly soon, Run Road East, and we still have some disruption. It's been quite a challenge. Appreciate everybody putting up with us in that network. Things closed. We have the systems contractor finishing up a tunnel house just south of here, but things are starting to come together here. We're continuing to lay LRT tracks, so now we have track all the way from Southwest Station all the way up to the Minnetonka Hopkins Bridge. We've been calling that, which is just on the next photo I'll show here, but this is the Spatana and Feltel roadway bridges. If you haven't had a chance to go out and take a look at there, it looks nice. Good work out there. Here's that bridge where we have track laid. This is our longest bridge at over 3,000 feet. That'll carry us over to Shady Oak, over into Hopkins. And Shady Oak Station progressing along. This is just a image on top of the Excelsior Bridge. Normally you get to see this viewpoint. This is that long bridge that goes over Excelsior and the railroad tracks in Hopkins. Starting to get some fencing up. We're going to have some periodic overnight closures on this as we work to get things painted and get the railing up, and so those will be noticed as we progress through the summer here. Big Road Station with the Howland development in the background there, that's moving along as well. This will have a small park and ride, about 90 stalls at that location. and Louisiana Station. A lot of things have been going on. Back in the background is the Southerly Connector. We actually completed that a couple weeks ago, so it is usable by the railroad, but as I understand it, there are still some track improvements that need to be done south of the river before this would be utilized. But just kind of remind folks that we have severed the existing connection between the Bass Lake Spur, which runs parallel to the light rail in this area, with what's called the M&S line, which is a north-south line just east of Louisiana. So because of that, we had to reestablish that connection, and that's what the Southerly Connector is all about. So that work is finished and signed off by the railroad. Here's probably the biggest disruption in St. Louis Park right now with Wooddale Avenue. We have that closed off. The contractor is, they just finished putting the duct bank in, which essentially carries the conduit for communication along the system. And we're working to get pet access reestablished temporarily through there. We kind of have to shift things around because it's essentially we got to do the work and also try to keep pet access. Right now, pet access isn't available. And I know the mayor has been getting questions on that, and we're trying to get this expedited as quickly as possible. But appreciate everybody putting up with us there. So Beltline, that essentially finished on the roadway. We still need to put in final sidewalk and all that, but there'll be a little bit of striping. But that was road closure for a couple of weeks earlier this season. And I'm starting to do foundation work for the vertical circulation at Westlake. So you can see the bridge off to the right there, Westlake Street Bridge. The B line will eventually be up along there, and we're making connection, vertical connection on both sides of the bridge eventually. And we have foundation work pretty close to be getting done. We'll start to see some structure getting built later this summer to get up to the bridge there. And you can see the station off to the off in the distance there on the left. And we're starting to progress on excavation. So what you're seeing here is the Cedar Isles condominium building that I mentioned off to the right. And you see the secants. We're starting to get to the first row of struts. That yellow piece is a temporary strut that essentially kind of puts things in place between the sheets on the left side and the secant on the right. And eventually you'll see struts put in place. There'll be essentially 2 or 3 rows of those struts as we excavate down, but work is starting to progress. And things are tight here, and we're, things are sequenced out in terms of the excavation and ultimately getting down to the groundwater, getting below the groundwater, and filling it up with concrete. That just takes a lot of effort to plan out and get that work expedited in such a tight confinement. The railroad, of course, is off to the left. You can't see that, but the railroad continues to operate as we construct. Some other images. So we had an opportunity to give a tour to the FTA. Is yours truly there in the hard hat pointing at the struts on the left there. We got to take out some folks from FTA at headquarters, so it was good to show them the alignment. And here's just a sampling of some of the construction off to the right there of the tunnel on the east heading there. Make our way up towards the Cedar Lake Channel. We still have that closed off. The WPA walls, Works Progress Administration walls that we've been working on are complete, and the contractor is busy finishing up that ped bridge, so we have the channel closed off through approximately September 15th to do that work. And I did want to back up just to talk about Cedar Lake Parkway for a moment. We are going before the Park Board to seek an extension of an easement that we have that roadway closed. We originally planned to have that open at the end of this month, and just running late. So we are looking to have that extended through September 29. It is our hope that we can beat that date, but we wanted to give ourselves enough cushion that we could have that, so we don't have to go back again. We have coordinated that with the city and Park Board staff, so that will be an item for the Park Board consideration this evening. Moving on, so 21st Street Station, this is getting kind of heating up with a lot of work, very tight confinement here. The contractor has a lot to do through this area. A lot of utilities need to be essentially pushed underneath the freight while the freight is still operating. So we have all sorts of utilities down there. We eventually have to get the LRT track across. This is a temporary roadway that we built, to provide access to folks. There are 5 homes that are located on the west side of this corridor, as well as the beach area at Cedar Lake. And so we're going to have to be very mindful through this area because it's a lot of busyness, particularly during the weekends. Yes.
Jim, sorry to interrupt, but just a question about that area specifically. I know that the flat pack house is for sale.
Yes.
Have the sellers been in touch with you at all about predictability of what's going on to facilitate sale or?
Well, I know we've been in touch with them quite often. David, I don't know if we have any update, recent discussion.
I need to sit there and mic to.
Sure. Join us.
Commissioner, yeah, we certainly coordinate with the owners, the current owners of that property quite often just for construction coordination. There was a retaining wall built right by there very early on in the project. They have indicated their plans, but they haven't given us specific information as to like indication of value or anything like that. And we're certainly not asking or being proactive there, but certainly when people are discussing real estate, along the property, we are certainly available to talk through the current status of the project. That's usually what we keep we know what we know, right? And we talk about the timelines for project completion and what's going on, the expected impacts that can be felt, for the foreseeable future. And we talk to buyers and sellers. We're very transparent about that.
Thank you.
All right. So moving on to Bryn Mawr Station, probably the highlight here is the building the vertical circulation structure here for elevator and stair to get up to that ped bridge. We're starting to get set up to put the rest of that ped bridge all the way over to 394 where that red crane is located, and get that finished up here in the next couple of weeks hopefully, and have that connection made. We are going to be having some disruption up at that Penn Wayzata area. We're going to be closing that off here later this summer for construction of the passenger drop-off and roadway sidewalk work. And Bassett Creek Valley Station, another area where we have vertical circulation on the east side of the Van Wyck Bridge, and so that's coming along. And then Glenwood, always a topic of discussion. We are moving along pretty well. We look to have this opened up later this summer. We are coordinating with the county as the county has some work going on Glenwood as well. But as you can see, we're starting to lay the track on the LRT bridge you see in the middle. And the 2 bridges, you can kind of see a glimpse of on the left, the West Roadway Bridge, and on the right is the East Roadway Bridge. So that'll eventually be in place, and once we get that established, get traffic back on that, we'll be closing that Royalston Holden area for construction as we make our way into the station here. So here's the Royalston Avenue Farmers Market Station that's coming along. This is one of 2 split platform stations that we have, the other one being Southwest Station. And lastly, for civil construction, the 5th Avenue 7th Street Bridge, you haven't been over there, you can see a big lot of form work up there. This is false work that eventually be replaced with concrete, and a lot of rebar getting placed up there. We're looking to start get some more deck placed on that bridge here this summer, and have that wrapped up as well this summer. Yeah, I'll pause there if there are any questions, kind of rapid fire through the civil construction.
Yeah, just briefly, a couple of or question comment on the Excelsior Bridge. Thank you for conducting as much of that work as possible at night. I know that that's a major thoroughfare, and I think maybe at some point there was some discussion about shutting that down completely to do some of the painting. Knowing that it's mostly happening at night is
right. Yeah,
really,
I think for the most part, I'm looking at my construction over there, but I think we're looking at mostly overnight work for that, or possibly weekend.
Yeah.
So I think we're through the major disruption of what we experienced the last couple of years.
Excellent. Yeah, 2 thumbs up on that. Thank you so much. The other question I had is about the trail segments and when they're reopening. Specifically that, I can't remember, the segment between Lake Road and Louisiana. It says potentially summer 2023. Any more specificity on
Yes,
what that
I've
might
been,
mean?
I've been kind of nudging all our folks about that one, because I was hopeful that we could have that open by now, but there's still some work to be done, and we're looking to have that, doing a punch walk later this month, so hopefully after the 4th, we can have that opened up. So that would be essentially from Blake to a leg that goes up to Lake Street, just west of Louisiana.
Okay.
We don't have things ready to go further, even though there is pavement all the way down to that tunnel that City of St. Louis Park helped fund that gets to the station. But we are hopeful that we can, later on this year, we can have that segment open up toward the end of the year here, in the construction season, from that piece just west of Louisiana all the way up to Wooddale. Likewise, we're looking at the idea of can we get things opened up all the way out to Excelsior as well, and then out to Shady Oak. So those things are in work right now, and we're having conversations at all sorts of different levels to see if we can get that done.
Yeah, well, thanks for all you've done to expedite the facility.
It's just really a challenge with, we have the main contractors, London McCrossin, but they have a plethora of subcontractors, and just coordinating all that, and, the availability we have so many things going on that on the 14.5 miles, it just gets to be, logistics trying to figure that out. So,
Jim, I get the question, how complete are we? I mean, we've been saying 70%. Is that about where it is, or is it more than that?
well, probably being quoted here, but I can say we're around 75% complete right now. And that's overall the project, so it includes the vehicles, includes the Franklin facility we upgraded, civil and systems. Yeah, we're about 75%. So we're climbing up.
Yeah?
But we still have a long ways to go with that tunnel. That's going to be the long lead, or rather the critical path.
Mayor.
Thank you, Chair. I need to get on a tour, and I haven't. And I want to be respectful, because I know how busy everyone is. But who should we either contact for an ad hoc a tour, or are there more formal tours scheduled that I need to make sure I get signed up for? So what's your recommendation?
Sure. Well, I think David Davies would be the person to work with on that. We'll get something figured out.
All right, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right. David will talk about some community tours that are coming up
Very
later
good.
this year. But okay, a little bit on systems. Systems contractor, a little more quiet. They kind of do things kind of behind the scenes, just along the guideway, installing OCS poles. We've got poles and arms installed from Southwest Transit all the way. Nick, how far are we up with poles? It goes up.
All the way up to Minnetonka starting.
Okay. Yeah, all the way up through Minnetonka. So, and we're installing some substations. These are traction power substations. On the view on the right is the traction power substation itself, and behind it is a signal house. And this is just on the other side of that waiting area that we have. We've got a big old fence between this and the public access area. But we're starting to get these planted. As we've talked about, we've essentially getting these stored in local storage until we're ready to put them out on the site. So that seems to be moving on pretty well. We have about four installed right now. Just here another one just west of Prairie Town Center Station. And then we got a tunnel house planted. This is just north of the 62 highway, and just right near the portal for the LRT tunnel.
Tim, I'm assuming that at some point in time you got security around these substations, in terms of fencing or something?
Yes, Mayor, we'll have fencing.
All right.
Yes.
Good.
All right, any other questions for me? Otherwise, I'll hand it off to David.
All right, thank you, committee members. David Davies, Public Involvement Manager for the project, just with a brief community outreach update. Before I kind of go into these slides, just want to note for everybody, we have, you've been introduced in the past to Katie and Diane, our two relatively new outreach coordinators who are here today with us as well. Just wanted to remind everybody that they are, onboarding, and they're out in the community with folks, attending events, attending meetings. So please introduce yourself when you're out on tours or things with them. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work for them to get up to speed on many years or decades of project history. But James, Diane, Katie, myself, we're active, as you'll see, kind of like all summer, especially out, trying to meet people out where they are. So please reach out to us when you have anything you need. Just a quick wrap up of what we've been doing so far this year. We've had over 90 meetings and events that ranges from kind of our routine coordination meetings with property owners to some of the community tours that I'll talk about in a couple minutes. But we've had a mix of in-person and virtual events. We've had community town halls that were virtual and recorded. We received some feedback too, internal and external, that hey, maybe we can do those some more in-person style events, in the future, to get some of that messaging out in future years. With COVID somewhat, subsiding, we're able to kind of utilize those in-person experiences to connect to people a little better. So we'll definitely do that as we moving forward. And of course, construction coordination during this season, a major part of our job. We're out on site many days out of the week with our construction team, with the contractor, talking through access, talking through upcoming impacts. We've still got some of this pile driving, as Jim said, in a couple key areas near residences, and we're trying to get that word out to people before the work starts so that they know at least what to expect from us. Just a recap, we have started our community walking tours, construction walking tours. We had 5 tours in May with attendance between 15 and 20. We had the attendance set at 20 max, just for wrangling purposes. It's easy to keep folks together in a construction site at around 20 people. But these are a lot of fun. We get a wide variety of folks coming out, some repeat folks who have come out in years past and really enjoy seeing the progress, and then some folks who really don't live near the corridor or haven't engaged with us much in so far, and it's really cool to see their eyes light up when they're seeing something for the first time, a specific element. Certainly we're trying to show things that have been in advanced stages of completion, such as the Minnetonka-Hopkins Bridge, and then of course bringing people out to the Kenilworth Tunnel, which is still very much in progress. People get a wide variety of experiences as they're going on these tours. This is time for them to ask questions too, right? So we have an outreach staff and a construction staff there to handle general questions about project history, and then of course digging into some of the details. We get engineers and construction folks out there who really like to dig into the weeds of like how we're doing this work, which is really cool to hear. And so, but we're hearing a lot about just asking about methods and progress. As Jim talked about, the schedule for reopening the trails is quite popular. We get a lot of questions about that. And then as the chief has covered and the chair, public safety once revenue operations begin. That's certainly a topic of conversation, and we like to keep people engaged about that as the project moves forward. We had our first round of tours in May. We're going to have additional public opportunities in July and either August or September. We'll see how it goes. Definitely a third round. I just haven't determined when exactly that will happen. And Mayor, to your question, we are always available to do targeted tours. So we can arrange the kind of what we've lovingly referred to as the 3-hour tour, which is the entire corridor.
Right.
It literally is 3 hours if you do it in one fell swoop. We can break it up into specific segments. We really like to show people the places where they live. We also like to show people places where they don't live, because sometimes that's what you see on a day-to-day basis, and it's really encouraging for folks to be able to see something that they don't see as they're driving to work or whatever. So
just a quick follow-up on that.
Yeah.
What's your optimal number of participants for a tour like that?
Sure.
Don't wanna
Walking
overburden you.
tours, we can be more flexible.
Yeah.
The targeted, we kind of talked about this last year, and there was still some hiccups in our logistics. For what we call the van tour, those we have to receive a finite number of people, and it's like 8 to 10 people per vehicle, and we have kind of a max of maybe 2 vehicles. We can follow up on that, but
Yep.
we can certainly split it up, but that's kind of, those are more.
That's good for now.
Yeah.
Order of magnitude.
Yep.
Thanks.
And we can do that for staff. We can do that for targeted groups like organizations. I know we've offered that to like city committees and things like that that have with representatives. So please reach out to us as those needs arise. We're happy to schedule those on a as needed basis.
Thank you.
Yep. That's my update. I'll take any questions if anyone has any.
Otherwise, comments? David, thank you. I had to say, you're doing a great job, and the problem is you know so much that people keep coming to you, and which is not a bad thing from us, but and you've stuck with it. I saw David recently when I'm riding my bike around on a weekend, and you should be at home. You're there on the site. I also think riding a bike on your own, it's a good way, I think, to see the project. Also a great way to get to know Hopkins and St. Louis Park, which with all these detours, I'm like, oh, wow, I've seen parts of the city I've never seen. Anyway, but it'd be good to get those trails open. Any other last thoughts, questions? Anyway, thanks.
Yeah, you
David.
scheduled public tours. It would be nice to have those on our city websites or county websites in addition to your website. So I don't know if we can coordinate that some way, somehow.
Mayor, we can try. I will say that they fill up almost instant, like within a day. So putting them out, and that is just putting them out on our construction update.
Okay.
So I want to right size that in terms of the amount of promotion we do, setting expectations for for participants. But I would be happy to share the information. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe
It's always good to have the
because of
information
the
out
demand, you could increase the number of tours. We could even do it city by city.
We can absolutely.
Think about that.
Yep.
You know, I have a career in the bus tour business. This could be Branson. We might have another. We have a revenue opportunity.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Jim, thank you. Yeah, great updates. So we're gonna also hear from John Dow, our specialist in procurement at the Office of Equity and Equal Opportunity. Take it away, Jim.
Thank you. All right, everybody. So, yeah, I'm going to be touching on the small business participation and workforce participation. So as of March 31st, these are some of the achievements that we have. As Jim shared before, if you're looking at all of the construction contract goals, it's at 15%, but our participation to date is at 20%, so that's really healthy for us as we're moving on into the latter part of the project. The systems contractor is going to be doing more work out there as the civil contractor kind of tapers off. And around this time of year, we're excited about the new start of a new construction season. It is opportunity for us to get out in the field and meet with some of the small businesses out there and then get photos of them actually doing work out there and seeing some of the activities there as well. And then for the contractor's commitments to the DBEs, we've disaggregated it, and this is a slide that we've shared before. There really hasn't been any new changes to the DBE commitments, but this is also helpful to see where the money is going into the different populations that are on this contract for small businesses. And then diving into the construction workforce, which is measured in hours worked on the project. We're disaggregating it out and looking at the number of folks that have been on here. And this is as of March 31st. And it combines the civil contract, systems contract, the Franklin contract. And this is just looking at the participation that we have to date. As I shared before, every time there's a new construction season starting up, it's also an opportunity for the contractors to be able to get more folks onto the jobs and onto the project. And in addition to that, they're building their careers and also bringing home wages to their family and the community. And then at our last meeting, I shared a little bit about our May 4th event, Rockin' the Rails, that was put on by the contractors and subcontractors. It was held over at the Dunwoody College. And the contractors came together. They hosted a construction career expo. It was a great opportunity and time for folks too, because May was around the time that many students and high schoolers are graduating. So it was a good time for them to come, get hands-on experience, kind of play with the tools, some of the equipment, They even had a simulation machine about what would it look like if you were actually in the seat of a crane and operating it. So those were some pretty cool things that they had there for folks. And the contractors share that they want to offer this again next year and promote it again and make it something more accessible for other college and high school schools in our area, for the students to be able to come there and try to maybe coordinate some busing to this location. It was a really large parking lot, so they had the space to expand and provide more hands-on activities, because I mean, as folks are getting into the careers, it's the hands-on activities that is really the experience that they can get and see, and the tangible things that they can learn and play and touch. And then at this event, it was also a great event too, because the council had previously participated with the unions. It was a collaboration between the council, the unions, North Hennepin Community College, and community-based organizations to create a program. So the program that came from this was the Building Strong Communities program. This program model has since been adopted and expanded throughout the state of Minnesota. So it's something that's really catching on. And here are the numbers that we have for the 2023 class. It's been separated into 3 zones: the metro area zone, Duluth, and Rochester, because these are some of the larger areas that we have in Minnesota, and we want to attract more folks into these areas for the construction projects that are going to be occurring in the areas. For the metro area here, we've disaggregated the data for the folks here, and this is important that we're trying to bring more folks in, because as we know, a lot of the union trades workers are retiring and leaving the job, so we need to fill in the workforce gap there, and this is important so that we can meet the demands of the construction projects within our region. In addition to that, I think that historically construction has been populated by men, but we need to do more work in increasing the diversity of the workforce, because I mean, what we've seen is that when we're creating these pathways for more folks to get into this, the benefits and the career benefits, it goes far beyond just the projects, into the communities, the families, and brings a lot of the wealth back into our communities. And then they also looked at the veterans that were also able to take advantage of this program and participate in it. And I think that we haven't really looked at the veterans aspect of things, but it's good to see that veterans are taking advantage of these opportunities and are able to start careers off in construction. So on May 5th, they held a graduation at North Hennepin Community College. And it was a great opportunity for families and the union trades workers to come celebrate the participants in this program. It's a great accomplishment, and it's a start for them into a very lucrative career. So here's my update. If there are any questions, I can take it. Otherwise, I will hand it back.
Great. Any questions for John? Go ahead, Commissioner.
Thank you, and thanks for the update. Could we go back a couple slides and just, if you could connect some of the data on different slides? So I noticed on slide 49, it doesn't appear that we've hit the goals. That's in the cumulative construction workforce disaggregated. But on the previous 2 slides, the numbers look more positive. So I just would appreciate if you could connect the dots between the slides.
Yeah. So the previous 2 slides are DBE achievements, so that's the small business aspect of things. So it's measured in dollars. And the disaggregated data there is referring to the business owners. And then workforce is measured in hours, so it's a separate measurement, because this is not just the business, this is actually the staff and the crew that's out there doing the labor.
Okay.
Yep. And our partners at the Department of Human Rights, they have oversight on that, so they're monitoring the reports that are submitted by the contractors every month. And the goals in itself, in 2017, the Department of Human Rights increased the goals to 20 and 32%. A lot of the projects within our region are achieving at the same rates that we are at the 8.4% and 23.5. And I think that that is in part due to the capacity of the companies and the workforce that we have within the unions. So it is these opportunities of these programs and the career expos where we're helping to increase and introduce more folks into the field, where there's opportunity to then increase that capacity. In addition to that, I think that our contractors have been working with their subs to talk about the culture that they have within their business and how can we increase diversity, because a lot of our folks are retiring and we can't continue to maintain our level of output if we don't have more people coming in.
So when you see these numbers, like what's the response of the project to try to up these?
I think increasing the numbers, it's a collaborative effort because the contractors do the hiring. The unions, they have a lot to do with the training because they want them to learn the safety precautions and all the methods that they have so that we have some consistency when we're sending folks out to the sites. And then community-based organizations, working with them because they have a great engagement and relationship with the community for folks who are looking for jobs. And they also have resources that job seekers may need to tap into while they're going through these training programs. So it is a collaborative effort. We are meeting with a lot of stakeholders too to talk about how do we do this better, what are the challenges and the barriers, how do we overcome this? I think another great project that's coming up really quickly here is the Blue Line extension. We have an event on June 20th that we're having for that particular project, and we're bringing in a lot of stakeholders from the workforce side of things and the small business side of things to talk about these barriers, because for that particular project, we want to be proactive and have some of these conversations ahead of time to see that, can we introduce initiatives into the design phase so that towards the end here we can increase the outcomes and have better participation on the workforce side of things.
I'd love to, maybe this isn't the time, but I'd love to at some point hear more about, you mentioned stakeholders meeting to discuss how to change these numbers. I'd love to hear more about what exactly is being discussed and how it's being implemented. And then maybe a follow-up, and I don't know if this is for today or for another day, but I appreciated your comments around the graduation and wondered, so what % of those graduates are feeding into this project to address these numbers?
Yeah, so the event on May 4th was an opportunity for those graduates. So a lot of those graduates actually came to the May 4th event and went around and talked to the contractors and was able to build some connections. I believe that our civil contractor has hired a few people from there and then are interviewing some of the other graduates too. I haven't gotten some of the feedback or confirmations about how many folks were hired, but I know that they have interviewed and some offers have been made. So maybe I can get back to you after the civil contractor and the systems contractor kind of get back to me.
That'd be great. That'd be great. I know that it's every project is, so many projects are wrestling with these same numbers, but having sort of a concrete sense of how either the Met Council or this project are really trying to take this on would be helpful, because there can be a feeling that the 20% goal, the 30% goal are just sort of thrown out there and then we go along doing business as usual. And so my questions are really rooted in wanting to make sure and see how we're not doing business as usual in order to try to meet those. Thanks.
That's a really great point, and I think that we've always kind of observed that this DBE process workforce has a compliance orientation because it's a federal program, but compliance doesn't get us to the number. You have to actually have a plan and special efforts, and I know your advisory committee has been engaged. It might be helpful to kind of get representatives from the advisory committee or get more detail about what is the plan. I'm hear you. All right, that's a great comment. Councilmember Cameron.
Chair. Kind of building off of Commissioner Green's line of questioning, I wonder if you could, not, not immediately, but perhaps at a future meeting, provide this data in terms of a breakdown of whether people are, what position they hold within the workforce. So are they, entry level? Is it supervisor management positions with the disaggregated data breakdown so we understand who our workforce is, and we can kind of take that and have lessons learned as we're, I'm sending folks to the June 20th meeting to engage with that, but as we're thinking about moving forward and initiating contracts with other projects in our system, that information would be really helpful. So, I know you mentioned the data comes from MDHR, so I don't know if that's something that they can share, but I think I and perhaps others would be interested in seeing that at another CMC meeting in the future.
Yes, Chair, yes. I think that that data is definitely something that we can work on getting. I know that the Department of Labor, they have a lot of data about the diversity of their apprentices because they track all the apprenticeships within the state. And that's something that has also been very useful as you're looking at the pipeline of folks who are coming into the construction industry. So we can definitely, reach out to them and see if we can grab some of that information.
Any other questions, comments? All right, John, thank you. And thank everybody for your participation in the meeting today. This project continues to be interesting. So,
Yeah.
and as it's
That's one way to
opportunities and challenges, right? Interesting is a Minnesota word. And we'll get to do it again along the way in the summer. We have another meeting here at the CMC on August 2nd. So mark your calendars. And with that, we'll see you out on the trail. Thanks, everyone. This meeting's adjourned, and thanks for being here.